All right, we're back on. You can see I'm on page 6. This is panel 1 of page 6, panel 1 of 1, 2, 3, 4. And I've got for once I've got the main figures kind of drawn. Whoops. And although it's not obvious, got these 3 zombies that are facing off. I called this in a previous video, I called this my Butch Cassidy and Sundance pose here. They're surrounded. But this is the moment when we kind of convert over to Act 2, they come up with a plan, and at the end of the page they're going to split up. Alright, so my problem right now is I've got this panel, it's pretty sparse, needs a background. So that's what I'm going to work on right now. I wanted to talk about art reference. Everyone will tell you that art reference is super duper important. And I'm going to tell you that art reference is cool and it's useful and it's good to use, but it's not super duper important sometimes. You don't always need art reference. I was looking at your boy Zach had just like a post, and he was kind of roasting this the evolution of an M60 as shown on the cover of a Gen 13 comic, which is a book for, I would say, teenagers, possibly even pre-teenagers. It was a Wildstorm book that was kind of a knockoff of sort of that post-Liefeld era. I believe there was somebody who worked on Gen 13 as like an editor or something who was even on the Real World. You know, it was that kind of book. And then like some interior shots of the book would show the M60 machine gun shown with a shirtless dude just blazing away with it on the cover. Like missing a hand grip, like it was slightly different. And also the hand, you know, the piece that goes on the front of the barrel that protects your hand when the barrel overheats. I don't know. It's not the receiver. It's something else. I was in the Army. I actually got legitimately injured by an M60 at a training exercise around 1998, 1997. What year was it? No, it was like 1996. I was at a training exercise and I was behind somebody who was firing an M60, and they picked it up and moved it, and I got hit in the eye with a spray of like hot brass from an M60. So let me just tell you, I know what it looks like. I know what it's supposed to look like. And taking the little barrel cover off, of course it doesn't make any sense, and of course losing the hand grip and how it kind of changes over the course of the comic. I don't think it changed that much. It definitely changed between the cover and the interior shots. I will say that. And everyone was kind of roasting it. And there's 2 schools of thought. One is, I'm going to call it the Alex Toth school of thought, which is that everything must be referenced. And there's even a kind of famous thing where Steve Rude, who was one of the greatest, sent in his penciled pages of Johnny Quest to Alex Toth, and what do you think? And this is one of his favorite. If you know anything about Steve Rude, you know that he loves Alex Toth. And just Toth just roasts the hell out of him, saying that these things aren't referenced, it doesn't look right. He was actually pretty mean about it. So and then you have the other extreme, which is the Jack Kirby opinion, which is he didn't really reference things. I mean, he did occasionally, but when asked about reference, he would say, for like cars and vehicles and things, he's like, I just kind of go off, I make up a design and I go with that. I'm not saying this is the right one and this is the wrong one. I'm saying it's definitely 2 schools of thought. However, when you act like, everything must be referenced, I think it's a bad path, and I'll tell you why. It's because we're in this kind of world right now where a lot of things are being traced from 3D models. Even people who say they don't trace, they do, and it's pretty out in the open. Like Alex Ross will even say, "Oh yeah, everybody traces nowadays." Swiping is totally, part of the new normal, etc. And of course, there's the famous Bollywood quote about, never draw what you can trace. And he also says never trace what you can just copy right out of a photostat or whatever they had. And some of that is tongue-in-cheek, but with the Wally Wood one, I think some context is probably important. He went from making $200 a page at Mad Magazine to making like $40 a page. And you have to wonder, why would he take that job? And it's probably he didn't have a choice. What were they really offering him? Probably the answer was steady employment. I don't really know the whole story of it, but and you're not trying to make comics for bragging points. In that era, you're making it because it's a job. So whether you copy it, paste it, trace it, whatever, you gotta make the dollar, right? You gotta make money. So it doesn't really, there's no dishonor in that at all, right? Not at all. It's not about the art, one might say, except for with Wally Wood, kind of was about the art. That was what made him great. Anyway, so they're kind of roasting this M60 in the comments and everything, and I'm a little sad about it, because here's the thing that I know about Zach that I think most people know, is that he is also an artist. However, he very rarely does his own art. He hires people to do art, and I think that's, sorry to say, Zach, I want to tell you that I was a great supporter of you against Mark Wade, monetarily even. I was even a Patreon supporter of yours at one point, but I'm just going to say it. Not doing your own art, Zach, it's a pussy move. The reason you're not doing it is because you're scared, because you know that you're not at that pro, level. And I'm definitely not at that pro level. I am a amateur. I'm the same people roasting that M60 would be roasting my little rabbit dude here. Certainly roasting my version of a revolver and possibly the rifle, which is completely from imagination. Drawing from imagination, though, is good. I wonder how tough it must have been for Steve Rude, because if you ask Steve Rude, he's around today, and said, "Hey, Steve Rude, who are your two favorite artists?" It is really obvious who his two favorite artists are, and one of them's Alex Toth, and the other one is Jack Kirby. You can see it in his work. I think he's said as much, in fact. I wonder that must be hard life for Steve there. Like, which school of thought is he in? Not sure. Alright, so I got a bare tree here. It's meant to be a desert tree, so it's got stuff on it. This idea that you need to trace everything also led us down the path of that was used as a weapon to great effect, I think, to comics, which was the "where are her organs" complaints. Oh, real women don't look like this. And of course they don't. How do you think Jack Cole, creator of Plastic Man, and also a great many incredible Playboy magazine cartoons, what was he like? Oh, I'm sorry, Jack Cole, you can't draw women like that anymore. I think he would have killed himself several months earlier, if not years. See? But luckily we didn't have that standard. And by the way, we're talking about a book which I contend is for teenagers or preteens, if not preteens. So it's not like Letters to Sarajevo, or some kind of quote-unquote serious graphic novel. And on a related subject, fuck graphic novels. What the fuck is that? Like, the idea that, oh, we've got this comic format and it's art. It's true art. And we should be using it to address adult subjects. That is why you got in the hole that you're in. That is why Dogman and Cat Kid are whooping your ass right now. And manga are whooping your ass right now. Like I said, we used to have this marketing phrase. It's for kids from 8 to 80. It is for kids, but adults can enjoy it too. That's how it worked. That's how it was so successful. So, in a lot of ways, I don't have a lot of sympathy for the comics quote-unquote industry, or even the comics fandom. The comics fandom did it to themselves. They jumped on board that fucking Watchmen bandwagon like it was like, oh, this is the future. We're gonna deconstruct everything. People are just now kind of waking up to the damage done by that deconstruction. I'm not saying Watchmen wasn't awesome. I loved Watchmen. I think it was great. And I quite like Alan Moore as a writer. But I think if you ask Alan Moore even, I think he did say, he was ultimately sorry that he did it, not just because he got screwed over by DC, which he did and continues to be, by the way, because Watchmen is still not out of print. I think he did great damage to the fun concept of superheroes and on the Charlton the greatest innocent characters were the Charlton superheroes. I will say I did enjoy the James Gunn Peacemaker series, which owes tons to the Watchmen, because it even has by the way, so if anyone doesn't know, Peacemaker is the comedian from the Watchmen, or rather the other way around. Comedian from the Watchmen is Peacemaker. So when you see the Suicide Squad as opposed to Suicide Squad, and I think it's Sarge Steele or whatever the dude's name is, I don't know, the dude that confronts him at the end and he says something like, "You kill people for peace. What a joke." That is a call out to the Watchmen, to the comedian. Whoops. Whoa, fuck. Okay, how about that? Let's take a look at my tree. Yeah, it's looking alright. There's no one right or wrong look for comics. They can look like all kinds of things. And, well, I will say that there is the one wrong way you can do it is try to look like everybody else. Why not try and do your own thing? I say that and people go, "Well, Peter, aren't you trying to look like Jack Kirby?" I would be so flattered if somebody said that, but I'm not really. I'm just trying to get these things drawn. I did learn a lot by trying to copy Kirby. You're trying to emulate your heroes. That's just totally true. And that's inevitable. Hey, how about that? I want to create this sense of depth. I've also got to figure out where to get my let me do the speech bubbles. Oh, this is 11. Let's call that speech bubbles. Yeah, I'd say we're in a really dark place where everything has to look super referenced and super correct. And I would say that this trend really started when people were taking out of context photos of panels and saying, "Oh, where are her organs?" and real women don't look like this. The infamous Rob Liefeld Captain America pose was really smugly kind of bandied about as, "Oh, see, he can't really draw." Rob could draw. Let me tell you right now. And he could do it when he was 18 years old, and he can damn well do it now. But acting like he couldn't, it's just crazy. It's just people being smug. It's just people being jerks, and of course they can't do it for the most part. That level of technical precision is admirable, by the way. I'm not saying it's not. But the real deal is storytelling skill, and I don't think anybody has it. I don't think even some of what we have that are the greats right now don't really have it. People who do have it are people like not Ethan Van Sciver, but Noah Van Sciver. If you actually read his Fanti Bukowski stuff, it's extremely well done as far as the storytelling goes. And he doesn't have Ethan's technical skill in any way, but he tells the story pretty well. He does it pretty well. Ethan's always been a bit of an enigma for me, in that if you look at his actual comic collection, like he's done some streams where he's pulled out his real comics and stuff. He understands, I think, he's got all those comics, and also definitely a genuinely nice guy. I was really surprised he had Hart Fisher on one of his recent streams, the great Hart Fisher. Said, "Yeah, I've been friends with Hart Fisher for years." That's, makes me like him so much more. And I already liked him, I love those guys. It makes me think, yeah, Ethan understands all this stuff. I think there are a lot of people that would not give Noah Van Sciver the time of day, pretty much, because, he's not trying to do the same kind of quote-unquote mainstream comics kind of deal. Let's do some sand out here. But I think that's too bad, because a lot of his stuff is really good. I was looking at one of the panels. It's a full page panel in one of his recent things, and he does the self-insert shit, which, by the way, don't do that. Most people who do that is just because they, I don't know, a bit too into themselves. But he did it, and it's when he's at this Vermont retreat, and it has him sitting in the wilderness. I think he's looking up at a bird in a tree or something like that. It's just a full page shot, and it's just perfect. It's a great shot. Now, a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, Noah belongs to us, the comics are high art crowd." If you look at Noah Van Sciver's sketchbooks, you will see Gorgo from Charlton Comics. I think Noah Van Sciver likes regular comics just like anybody else. I like how he did Um, I think it's like a dinosaurs versus. To me, it was a parody of the apocalypse zombie sort of subgenre a bit, where it's these dinosaurs, and one of the other soldiers, it's a bunch of soldiers that are in a city, and they're hunting like T-Rexes or something like that, and one of them is named Brunetti. He's like, no, Brunetti gets killed, and of course Brunetti is Ivan Brunetti, which is another one of those kind of New Yorker style comics guys. Yeah, I think Ed Pescor said it best. You come in, you like both. You're not just from the Wizard magazine crowd. You're also into Daniel Clowes and so on and so forth. Well, Daniel Clowes is a great example too. A recent interview. Hey Daniel, what kind of comics were you into? He described the 70s as a great wasteland. He didn't like the 70s as far as Marvel Comics goes. I don't know if I had gotten to experience the comics of the 60s. 70s might have seemed like a wasteland to me as well. I kind of love the 70s. The 70s are when I first started getting into comics. We didn't know it was going to be called the Bronze Age. We didn't know it was going to change. When does the Bronze Age really end? This hill looks really wrong. Let's make this a cliff edge. Also quite like a cartoonist known as Seth, if you ever heard of him. Did a comic called Wimbledon Green. And what's the one about the fans? But, well, I can't quite remember. I have a bunch of his stuff. I've got it on Kindle. And it's all really good. And he's also been pretty open about it. He's comics of the 60s and the 70s were really good. And then now these companies are owned by what he calls, I've adopted this term as my own, hateful media conglomerates. I couldn't think of a better way to describe him. He's so right. I think he even saw, speaking of Wimbledon Green, by the way, the premise of Wimbledon Green is hilarious. It's the world's greatest comic collector. It's very funny. And he has like these ultra rare issues of sort of golden age comics that never were, or silver age comics, gold and silver age. All right. We want to make sense that they're going to run. There's going to be this wall. There's got to be enough stuff to hide behind so we can imply some trees or some wilderness scrub. They have to use a smoke grenade to fool the zombies into splitting up, or they're going to split up. And there's a lot of high grass too. Let's see. Patches of high grass. All right. Anyway. The thing about comics really is that it's an ongoing skill. You're learning as you go, even when you get really good. Even when you've had a 50-year career, you know, you're still learning new things, picking up new things. The way of the ringer, where you hire a guy to do your art, that's also not completely unknown. Bob Kane used to do it. He's also one of the most hated people in comics history. Do people not remember this? I don't know. Oh. But there's no doubt that times have changed. There's our... What is going on with that line? It looks like a stray cat hair. Okay, it's not. Okay. Let's get more speech bubbles done. Oh, this whole time I've been using technical pen, which I don't like to use. Alright, let's try and get this one. Alright. Doing an exchange like this, like I said, this is going to give me an F in Mr. Eisner's class. Whoops! He did not like these kinds of exchanges. I think it's working. Alright. If we want to, we can go back in and... Oops. Black. Add more detail. Whoops. My hope is that, you know, however this looks like right now, a year from now I'll be better, right? I'll be better at it. But I think my style will not change. I think it's just that I'll get better at drawing. Okay. I kind of tried to fake in a horizon line here, but I'm going to put it a little bit higher and higher on the sides. And I don't like this brush. We like this brush. This brush is cool because you can go, you can get thick to thin. That's what we want. Of course, you can always go too much. Alright, there's still time to join the current season of Kubert School classes. I don't think the classes begin until November 7th, something like that. You don't have much time, but you still have some time. Alright, I think I had a little bit too low. past his eye line, which I didn't mean to do. This picture was much larger originally, but once I put in the lettering, I was like, well, whoops, I'm going to have to make him smaller. Another reason I think that people shouldn't worry as much about stuff like, you know, the way mainstream comics look now is because everybody is indie now. There's nobody left who isn't indie. The mainstream comics themselves, in a bid to look cool, have tried to make themselves look indie. So you could say, okay, well, they've abandoned that. They've abandoned the standard, which means just anybody could come in and take it over. But I'm just going to tell you, it wasn't that great of a standard. I kind of don't blame them. However, what they chose to replace it with is the webtoon look. And that's what it is, by the way. I think there's been some panels that have been drifting around. I saw some on Twitter. I actually even saw some on YouTube. And it's some kind of autistic little Gen Z. It's supposed to be New Mutants. It doesn't look like New Mutants at all. It seems to be drawn for a more mature audience and featuring topics that would appeal maybe to a more mature audience, but drawn as if it's like a Saturday morning cartoon or something. I don't understand. Why did they go with that? No, I think that the way to go is just to go back to the originals and seek what the original guys saw it. Early comics came from newspaper comics, which were, Bill Gaines bought the newspaper comics section, folded it over, put a staple in it, and sold it as the actual first comic book, quote unquote. And if you've looked at newspaper comics, you can kind of get away with all kinds of different looks. For every Milt Caniff and Alex Raymond doing an adventure strip, there was also, there's room for the Carl Barkses and the Crazy Cats and the, George Harrimans and all the other kinds of creators. And people used to instinctively understand this. The same audience for, Donald Duck, the Carl Barks's Donald Duck and Uncle Scrooge were the same guys that were buying Superman and were buying Western comics, DC All-Star Western. You could even see it sometimes in the backup comics. You would see what looked like a newspaper comic kind of stuffed in there. It was not unusual. And of course, you're probably making the argument, at least to yourself, this guy doesn't know. This is what the fans want. And my counter argument to that is, what fans? Everyone's gone. You killed them all. There ain't fucking nothing left. If we were just going by what the fans wanted, it would look like Dog Man and Cat Kid. Oh, now here's an example of something that I actually did kind of reference, although at least from memory. Smoke grenade. Whoops. Oh, this is going to be hard because you can screw a cylinder up if you don't do it right. Hey, Peter, let's do a cylinder from imagination. In my defense, I can say, well, all my stuff takes place on a world other than Earth. This is just what smoke grenades look like on the world other than Earth that I've created. Checkmate. However, you can get it wrong, as I have just now, by getting your angle slightly off. How about that? Booyah. Okay. I have another art reference story. Another reason why I think it's retarded, but it goes back to D&D. Back in the days of 3rd edition D&D, there used to be people who would review the new books that were coming out. Let's do like a ridge line. And especially the monster books. And of course you wanted to read these reviews because, like, you know, this was in the era of what was called the D20 license, where anybody could put out anything. And so, you know, whether you're getting something good or something bad, it was all just kind of, you know, up to the skills of whoever was doing it. And in this case, it was a monster book. And I'm actually going to edit this video so you can actually see what I'm talking about. And it was the monster book, and this one had a number of monsters in it. And I was reading through it because, you know, if the monster book numbers are off, you know, you wouldn't. This is an official Wizards of the Coast monster book, but you still wanted to read the reviews. Like, and he gave it really bad reviews, and he's like, these monsters. And I'm like, oh, what's the problem? Are the numbers off? Is this unusable? Like, can you use this to make dungeons and or dragons or whatever? And the crux of these reviews about the monsters was actually not about that at all. It was about the art. You're like, okay, well, so the art sucks. No. He said the art was unrealistic. And I'll give you as an example, and I'll never forget this example, and I'm going to show you. There was a monster called the Arrow Demon. And the Arrow Demon has 4 arms and shoots 2 bows at the same time. And the picture, and here's the picture. I'm going to try and I'm going to go into and edit this picture and so you can see it. You can see that, like, let me look at the picture so I can, like, describe this accurately. In the Arrow Demon's left 2 arms, he's holding 2 bows. Like, he's got an upper left arm and a lower left arm. Each arm has got a bow, and then on his right 2 arms, he's got the bow drawn back with an arrow. And I think that was like the kind of the power of the Arrow Demon. Rules-wise, is he got, you know, 2 bow shots off a round, or maybe it was 4, or something like that. I don't really remember. This guy's complaint is that art is unrealistic because he could never shoot those arrows. And it's like, it doesn't fucking matter. It looks fine. Boy, I would hate for this guy to have been around during the 1st edition era, which is my era, when our art was, you know, around, when we had David C. Sutherland's, aka Diesel's, demon art, one of which it clearly shows Kermit the Frog from the Muppet Show, right? That's one of the demons. So, I don't know. I just don't trust that kind of criticism. But you know, it is what it is. I'm not saying it's totally wrong. If you value, like, I need my M60s to look exactly like an M60, you know. And Zach was in the Marine Corps or whatever, and actually had to operate an M60. I was in the Army. I actually had to get hit in the eye with a ejecting brass from an M60, and I don't care. I'll give you a good roast if you're hoping to read this and like, I gotta roast this guy. Obviously, the eye injury you sustained is what keeps you from being able to draw good. There we go. Pretty good. All right. I think we've almost got a panel here. This is, how do we get this fucking background cliff design? Let's go in and do the speech bubble too. On the speech bubble? Okay. One old school way to use speech bubbles, I think I've pointed this out, is they would often use the panel border wall. I think I might be too close though to get away with that. Let's see. Alright, let's just move it down a little bit. That looks pretty good right there. If you're wondering what I'm doing right here, I'm just trying to hide this line behind the panel border. And failing. Boom. Because I want to throw some white into the balloon. It's not that important to do that, but and then look, I'm off a bit down here at the bottom. So we're going to warp it in a little bit. There we go. Alright, let's take a look. Black. Correct brush. Inky. Pencils off. Yeah. I think it's over here. There we go. Oh, if we don't have his ropes in there, right? Almost committed the same kind of problem. It's going to make a very complicated series of lines. Anyways, in the world of indie comics, one thing we don't have, and I just happened to notice Luke Stone will be holding a discussion on his channel tonight, so we don't really have editors that can say things like, hey, you left out a detail. Your M60 changed from panel to panel. You forgot the ropes. They're on this one. They're not on this one. The pose is wrong. I would see that one on some Stan Lee criticism of, I believe it was either King Kull or rather Kull the Conqueror, or Conan the Barbarian, where he had like an action pose that looked like his knees were knocking together like he was afraid or something like that. It said, hey, that's too sissy of a pose for Kull there, or Conan, or whoever else. Redraw it. If it was always up to the artist would never want to redraw anything. Artists hate to redraw stuff. Okay, I think we should be able to see just this. I don't think I have to put the tree because he's looking at Rabbit Fighter. Oh, look at it, I didn't finish this tree. Alright, I'll have to go back and finish the tree too. Maybe we can put the edge of the tree up here. The premise is that deeper in, there's some ruins, some ruined buildings, some structures, maybe some old junked vehicles. Kind of strewn around the ruins, and one of those vehicles or things is a robot hand. And in a coincidence, it's going to be the robot hand that Prometheus powers, the hand of the robot that Prometheus powers attacked in the first 9-Volt anthology. And although they don't know it, the anomaly, the collapsing border, has just been spewing up dimensional wreckage over into this junk field from time to time. Let's do an anthill. There we go. Boom. Alright, well, of course all of this is just my opinion. Speaking of opinions, I was looking at Dave Stevens, a channel which had a lot of like remembrance of Dave Stevens, the Rocketeer artist, and he had some thoughts on Kirby that I completely disagree with. Some of his thoughts were that inkers should have been doing all kinds of corrections to Kirby's work, and Kirby meant for them to, which I don't believe that is true at all. I think there's some legit complaints about Vince Colletta kind of ruining some of the art, or at least kayfabing it, where he took figures out and simplified things. However, this kind of goes back to the Wally Wood thing, that, you know, in that era, you're being paid for the job. You're not being paid to be an artist. You're being paid for the job to finish it. And some of that might have been editorial, who knows. There's the rope. Alright, I think we got a good start on panel 2. I'm going to go ahead and fix this one in up a little bit. I have no doubt that I'll be continuing to do these for a while. And that is our hour. Not quite an hour. Thanks so much for watching. Like, follow, and subscribe. If you disagree with me, please feel free to tell me so. That's cool. I'm actually quite a fan of your boy Zach. I have most of, although not all, of his work. I have his variant cover that he drew himself, just to show you that I really do believe that he should be doing his own art. And at this point, you know, I think he should just start drawing himself. Don't be a pussy. Yeah, it's not going to be perfect. It'll probably look better than mine. What matters is that it reads. Like, when you look at that, does that look like a tree? Does it look like there's depth? Can we understand what's happening? Oh shit, I can't understand what's going on with that. What's this? Oh, that was meant to be one of the junked cars or something? Let's make an actual junked car. Let's do like a tire. Just some random tire laying out there. That's what matters, though. And let's make comics fun again. The villains are on the ropes. They've literally lost Twitter. I feel like good things are happening. Well, or at least some tough lessons are going to be learned. Yeah, man. Oh, by the way, and if Narwhal can do it, you can do it too. I mean, seriously. Narwhal does not have that style. He has his own style. And people understand it. I actually don't really like it, but at least it's different. You know? Alright. Let's call this is done for now. Alright, like, follow, subscribe. I just got 2 panels to do. One crucial panel where they do like a top-down, where the 2 characters are splitting up, running in different directions. I'm a bit questioning this panel right here, where they hurl the smoke grenade, and we see the 2 characters from behind. Seeing a character from behind is never optimal, but it is kind of old school, you know. See you soon. Now I gotta go find a picture of an arrow demon to put into this video.